Hello and welcome back to the Buckle Up channel. My name's Rob Wilson and this is the Tesla Model S. Roll titles. And straight away there's a problem. You see, I know how passionate people are about these kinds of cars one way or another, and before you go and dislike the video already because I haven't said something good yet, just bear in mind what I'm going to be doing is switching between what I call the skeptic hat, which you can see here, so I can talk about the views of the people who very much dislike these kinds of cars, but also equally I'm going to be talking about the good points with my patent pending Elon hat, which I can use to say all the wonderful things about it. But anyway, just so you know, I'm going to be impartial. But we'll start at the front, which is a car. The grille, as you can see, isn't really a grille. Eagle-eye viewers will note that this is an older model because new ones don't have this sort of black interface thing anymore, really. It's like got a weird chromed mustache. Lights presumably come on and go off when you ask them to. Fog lights, they're becoming a rarer and rarer thing nowadays. The only real intake is down right at the very bottom, which I presume is for cooling of the battery rather than any actual functional aero stuff. And there's a slight splitter. Speaking of aero, actually, this car has a drag coefficient of 0.24, which is, I believe at the time it came out, was the lowest drag coefficient of any production car, which is quite impressive. Obviously it needs that, being electric. Shall we work our way down the side, where we can find 19-inch wheels, which are 19-inch wheels? I don't know. Presumably they're designed to be slightly more aerodynamic than normal wheels, presumably. You've got this little Tesla badge, which is your indicator repeater, but also is a little bit for the Autopilot, which is something we'll come on to a bit later on. You've got your wing mirrors, they fold in and out. Doors, door handles, it's flush. I can't grab it, I can't press it, whatever. I've got the key in my pocket, and all I have to do is click it, and it'll lock itself, as I've discovered it does. And then when I reopen it, come on car, do the thing. There we go, you see that? Now it's out and now I can open it and close it. Amazing technology. Amazing technology. But it takes 4 minutes to get into the car as opposed to 3 seconds, so I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, obviously that helps with aero quite considerably, I would imagine. Charging port, is it on this side? No. It's on the other side, okay. Where is it? Where's the button for it? Harry, help! Seriously, oh, that's the boot. So, as you've probably seen, it's taken me about 15 minutes to find out how I open the charging port. You come around here, you press and hold the boot button. Voila! Oh, that's the other good thing about Tesla, especially one that is a few years old like this one, is you've got access to the supercharging network completely free of charge, which you no longer have for a lifetime on any new Tesla. So that's a bonus to getting one that's a few years old. There isn't actually any exhausts, obviously, being electric. It's all just pretty much conventional car. And if I double tap, the boot opens up, and in you will see here, enormous boot. It's also a hatch, which is a rare thing on such a big car. So under here, normally there would be another boot, because this car has 3 boots, amazingly. 1 boot, 2 boots, and then there's another boot at the front. So this does something. What does this do? Like that? No. Oh. Because this car has 7 seats in it, which, oh Christ on a bike, open up like this out of Look how much space there is in there, by the way. If you didn't have these rear seat options, you'd have just that amount of space. Once you've got them into that position, you then have to do something with this. Huh?
That
what?
top bit flips out towards you, and then you have the entire...
Oh yeah, so that bit comes out here, click. That bit goes up there.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Oh, hang on. I need to switch caps. This is bloody useless. I'm genuinely, like, completely stumped by this. Having 7 seats is obviously extremely practical, and children can fit in the back of this car. We can probably insert a clip of "and child" because the owners very kindly lent us one. We don't endorse child labour on Buckle Up, but I'm going to try it out as well. So, as you can see, it's perfectly fine as long as the boot stays open, headroom wise. Legroom's fine actually. I've definitely been in worse people carriers with less knee room than this. However, I am going to use the key to bury myself. I don't know what the correct term is, but let's try that now and see. Oh my god, right, okay. Oh god! Right, so, I mean, if we could get, I don't know, I don't think I could really get someone else next to me. I don't know how stupid this looks. Right, I'm going to open it, 1 sec. There isn't really enough room in the back for anyone over 5'4". Anyway, they're there. Oh, crikey. That's the boot. So let's move inside, shall we? Oh, right, on the inside then. Well, the doors open nice and wide, which means it's quite easy for someone of my height to get in. By the way, I'm 6'2" for reference. And look at the amount of knee room that I've got here. That's just fantastic. In fact, it's so good, I'm going to put my Elon hat on. Look how good this knee room is. Other good things, the floor is completely flat, and like ridiculously so, because obviously there's no transmission tunnel in a electric car, so even if you sat in the middle, you aren't breaking your ankles, and because there's a nice cutout down here underneath the aircon unit, it's plenty of space for your feet to go. Also, while I've got my Elon hat on, the bench is quite flat, which normally would be not so good, but actually in this case is, because when I sit up straight with my Elon hat on, my head does touch the sunroof, so that does eat into it slightly. Let me switch hats. So, tall people, good leg room, not so good headroom. Yeah, I suppose I can always just slouch, so I can put my Elon hat back on now. I can slouch, and then I'm not hitting my head. I do like the fact that the sunroof goes all the way back past where my head is, so it just looks like sky. You know, lets light in, more airy, feels roomier because of it. Things that aren't so good, hat swap. There are no door pockets in this car. We'll come to that in the front as well, but there is nowhere to put anything in this car. Nowhere in the back to store things. There's no cup holders that I can see. So that's a bit of a negative, I guess, storage. But I suppose you have got 87 boots. Should we move into the front? Right, the front. This is the best bit of the car. We'll come to all of the tech bits in a minute, but starting with lack of storage, let me just put on my skeptic hat. As you can see, and as I said in the back, no door bins at all. You've just got window switches and it's just stuff in the way. Door. There is a rather large area down in the centre, but there is no actual sort of divider in place for any of those bits. So whatever you put in there is just going to move around quite violently while you're driving along, because I'll explain more when we drive it. It's quite fast. There's some armrests which reveal cup holders. So a big bonus for cup holders, because the rear seats don't have any. There is an glove box, which is a button. Oof. Let's see that again in slow motion. Steering wheel, it's a normal Tesla steering wheel. You've got your volume controls and switching between various different menus and tracks and things. A lot of the switchgear is from Mercedes-Benz on this era of Tesla, so indicator wiper stalk is from a Mercedes, the gear selector is from a Mercedes, the cruise control functions are from a Mercedes, but everything else is relatively Tesla. It's very, very minimalist, as I'm sure you're all aware anyway. You've got a sodding great 17-inch touchscreen in the middle, which does literally everything and more. In fact, I might actually start playing with that a bit now. So let's start with the screen then. So as you can see, I've got it on navigation at the minute, so it's Google Maps. It's unbelievably quick and responsive. It's just as good as an iPhone or whatever Samsung rubbish that people like Harry have nowadays. So everything is on the touchscreen. The only two buttons are for the glove box and for the hazard switch. Your climate control, that's all done on the screen, and to be fair, it isn't really that difficult. It's super sort of like easy to touch. I guess you do have to take your eyes off the road more than you would in any other car, but then you've got your music stuff. You can obviously connect Spotify and all that sort of malarkey up to your car now. You've got your heated front and rear screens and your volume, which is all done on a little slidey thing, so that's fine. That's that. The things that I'm most interested in are in the car tab and also in another tab which we'll get to in a second. So the car tab, this is your quick controls. So things like the sunroof, for example, I can open it. But how far do I want it to open? Do I want it to be 29%? 29%? Or 16%? Too many choices. But hang on, let me just put my Elon hat on, because this entire next section is just like, this car is almost made with me in mind. So let's move straight on to the toy box, which is of course designed specifically for me. So the first one is called Emissions. Maybe a little dig at VW there. What it does is it creates a whoopee cushion sound effect, and you can place that in various different places in the car. So if I press that, that is honestly one of the best features I've ever had in a car, ever. I want that in every car. Please, manufacturers, listen, have a sense of humour. Obviously, I mean, that's just funny. You can't argue with that. Farting is funny. And the sounds are coming out the speakers in that specific area of the car. You can also have the farts on demand by pressing the steering wheel, or my personal favourite, fart on turn signal. So if you're driving along, you're turning left, and there's some farts, and it just cheers everyone up. Okay, let's turn that off, because that's quite loud. And that is amazing. I don't care if you're like saying, oh, it's a childish rubbish. I'm a child at heart. It's amazing. Romance tab is next, which allows you, once it's loaded, to have a nice sit down by a crackling fire. But also, there you go. Look at that. How cool is that? It's like having a literal fire in your front room. You sit back, you relax. The heat's coming on. My heated seat is coming on. It's just incredible, really. There's a sketch pad, so if you have, oh gosh, that heat's really coming on now. So you can write down important things that you remember, so that you can like use them later on.
What's that say?
Huh? What does what say? So you know, things, just important messages like that you might want to keep for later on. So that's your toy box. Entertainment. So this is where you can play games like Asteroids, if you're around in the 1980s, which I obviously wasn't, and you just use the steering wheel to turn your little man around, and then I can shoot. Oh god, I got that one. Oh no, it killed me anyway. As you can see, it's an extremely difficult game. No, don't do that. I've been killed twice. I mean, there's loads of games. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's backgammon, chess, all that sort of stuff, which is obviously brilliant. Digital driving cluster in front of you, so you can it has all of your speed, and if you're using Autopilot, it shows you where your lane is and all that sort of stuff, and how much battery you've got left. But I think that's just about everything. Just for the farting feature, I want one. We'll cut to some driving and I'll tell you about how wonderful it is there. Or not, because I still have my skeptic hat. So, what's it like out on the open road then? Well, there are some quirks with electric cars if you've never driven one before. I've had the good fortune to have driven a couple of different ones before, but never a Tesla. So this is my first Elon experience, and I have to say I'm mightily impressed so far. First things to know, as this Golf who thinks he's quicker than everyone, even though if I put my foot down even slightly I could completely demolish him. First thing to know in an electric car is the acceleration is like instantaneous, because all electric cars have their maximum amount of torque from 0 RPM, so it gives you that sort of like roller coaster feeling when you put your foot down. The next thing to know is regenerative braking. So that when I lift my foot off of the accelerator pedal, it actually starts to brake the car, and when I lift off, it's going to slowly start doing the regen. You can feel it coming in. And that in itself will probably bring the car to a near halt. It certainly does when you're driving around town. It is almost one pedal driving, which is interesting, and you get used to it eventually. I'm starting to get used to it now. I'm slightly worried that when I go back into my normal car, I just won't stop. So a few of the stats on this car then. So this is the Tesla Model S 85. No P's or D's. Although this is the slow one, it'll still do 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, which is jolly quick. It'll go into a top speed of 140 miles an hour. That might not seem like a lot compared to German rivals, but electric cars, it's a bit different. The top speed isn't necessarily the point of interest. That sort of acceleration it doesn't do it justice, because when you actually put your foot down, it is really like a roller coaster, and it's even more so because you understand that this car weighs more than 2 tons. So mathematically, physically, it doesn't make any sense in your head that something that weighs 2 tons is a big, heavy car can accelerate stupidly quickly. So I'm going to bring our speed down. We're on a B road. I'm going to come down to 25 miles an hour using the regen. I haven't actually braked. And then I'm going to do this, and my entire body has disintegrated! Okay, and that is rather addictive, as any Tesla owner will probably tell you. That's quite fun, and I enjoy doing that, and it's difficult to explain or show how violent that sort of is on camera, because 5.5 seconds, we know cars can go quicker than 5.5 seconds to 60, but it's just because of the nature of the electric motor, it's just instantaneous. It's slightly terrifying. So obviously one of the main differences is the lack of any noise when you're accelerating. That is slightly disconcerting, but I don't think that road and wind noise, they don't then become a sensory overload of other noises, so it's probably quite well damped in that respect. I'm not like having to raise my voice to have a conversation or anything like that, and I can't hear wind whistling anywhere, or the tyres being particularly noisy. The ride's good. I'm very much enjoying the ride. And the steering is actually reasonably precise, more precise than I was expecting. And because the suspension's so compliant, probably because it's set up for the American market more than us, it's rather comfortable. The other thing to note is the range. So it's all jolly fun putting your foot down and going stupidly quick, but how does that impact the range? So the claimed range of this car when it was new was 312 miles, something like that. When it was fully charged this morning, it had about 220 miles of range. The temperature is, I don't know what, 3 or 4 degrees, something like that. So batteries don't tend to work as well in the cold as they do in the warm, so that will hamper the range. So it's about 100 miles less than what it was claimed, there or thereabouts. But realistically, how often do you drive over 200 miles without stopping? I know I don't, so I don't think it's really going to be that much of a problem. Plugging it into just a normal 3-pin plug, the owner did say it can take like 20 hours to give a full charge, but realistically you're going to have some sort of small wall charger at home, and in that case it'll charge at a rate of like 8 miles an hour, 8 miles of range an hour, so that's a lot quicker. So Autopilot then, everyone always goes on about this feature. So I've set the speed to 50 miles an hour. I'm following the car in front anyway, and if I just double tap this lever towards me, I can now take my hands off of the wheel, and it is using the white lines and the edge of the road to find where it is and keep itself centered. I don't know if you can see that in there. I just have to keep occasionally touching the wheel about every 20 seconds or so, and it'll figure itself out. I am not steering it though, it is doing it itself. I'm not touching the pedals. Yeah, it's another level of sort of cruise control. What this opportunity presents, being stuck behind a tractor, is to show you what 362 horsepower or whatever it is looks like. Right, so there's nothing coming. I put my indicator on and I go, oh god, I've entered warp speed! And I'm past the tractor quite comfortably and very quickly. And that brings me on to quality and reliability, because Teslas get quite a bad rap from the press in terms of quality, and I have to say, when you look around the car, there are little bits that are slightly sort of rough edges that you wouldn't necessarily see on a Mercedes or a BMW or whatever. I'm not really that bothered about that, but if something goes wrong, all this technology, it's going to cost a lot of money. So when I was speaking to the owner earlier on, he said he'd had some trouble with the screen. So the screen was turning on and off intermittently, which is obviously not good. So he rang Tesla up, went in, the car was in there for a week. When he came to collect it, he was like, all right, we couldn't find the fault with the screen, but why would you bother sort of like bringing your car in and everything if it wasn't there? So what we've done is we've just replaced it under warranty for you. He's like, oh right, okay, that's very good, because I have worked in the motor industry and I can't really think of another company that would just take a customer's word for something and then replace something that is almost certainly thousands and thousands of pounds just on the house sort of thing. It's a big car if you live in the UK. There's certain points where you're on in town and stuff like that, or if you're having to pull over to like a car past, you know, in a narrow street and stuff like that. It is a wide car, so maybe it's a little too big for our roads, but I don't think it's necessarily any bigger than something like a 7 Series or an S-Class. But maybe one of the questions you should be asking is, rather than comparing it to one of its German rivals, would you rather have older Model S or get a new Model 3 of some description? Because the 3 is definitely going to be more compact and easier to live with in that respect, but it's just whether or not you want something like that, because one of these is going to end up cheaper than a Model 3, especially when you take into account the free supercharging that you get with older Tesla Model S's. So visibility around the car, I like the fact that the door mirrors are big. Usually on electric cars they seem to be smaller, probably for aerodynamics. The view out the back isn't brilliant. That screen is quite steeply raked, again probably for aerodynamics. But you do get a reversing camera, so it's not really the end of the world. I quite like the seating position. I can get myself nice and comfortable. Well, we're at some traffic lights, so I can demonstrate. There's still plenty of like ways I can move it backwards, forwards, up, down, left, right, inside out probably. So that's good. And ergonomic wise, everything's sort of where you expect it to be if you are a Mercedes-Benz owner, and by that I mean your gear shifter's on the right, your indicator and wipers are both on the left, and then your cruise control functions and autopilot's further down on the left. The screen, while excellent in terms of its features and everything like that, I'm not sure how well screens work in terms of on the move, wanting to press buttons. You do have to like look down, especially for something like the climate control, but that's because the screen's portrait, and you may or may not know that the new Tesla Model S, the recently revised one, has now got a portrait screen similar to the Model 3, but a bit bigger. So I think that'll help with that sort of thing of having to constantly look down, look up, look down, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's enough talking from me, so I'll find somewhere to pull over and we'll do some concluding. So then, the Tesla Model S. Well, I don't need to be wearing my Elon hat to tell you that this is in fact a very good car, and I am tempted to buy one. I didn't think that would be the case at the start of the day, but I definitely am. So what you need to consider is, do you want a used Model S or do you want a new Model 3? The plus point of the used Model S is you've got access to the supercharging network and it's free. But negative of the Model S is, unfortunately, it's just a little bit too big for our roads in the UK, so maybe a new Model 3 would be a better option. If you can make your mind up on that, probably worth driving one or the other. This one probably first, to figure out whether it is too big for you. But I would thoroughly recommend having a go in one of these, or an electric car in general. It's genuinely changed my perspective on electric cars. I was a bit worried about the lack of noise, whether I was going to miss that. I don't really. I think this would be a perfect daily car. I would certainly consider one for a daily car. If this is what the future's going to be like, then count me in.